Sarah, welcome back.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah,
We have the best conversations.
this is your third time on the show. I mean,
I know,
obviously
I was
we've
thinking that.
spoken a lot in between, but the last time was 2 years ago. So let's talk about how crazy time is. Like I thought it was like 8 months ago.
Right? I know, same. It is, I feel like the last 5 years is just one glob of time that I can't mentally separate anymore. It's all
Yeah,
going too fast.
it's just I don't know if it's because we're getting older or if the world is speeding up, but
Right?
it certainly goes a lot faster now. And I appreciate these conversations I get to have with you because of how you approach all of these quote unquote woo woo things that people have talked about
Mhm.
for so long, and you break it down to in a sense where the common everyday person can actually implement it into their life. And right off the bat, that takes us to your new book, Think It, which literally breaks down how can you truly shift your mindset into a positive mode, even when it feels negative, even when things aren't going right, all those good things. But let's catch up over the last 2 years. What have you been up to?
Oh my gosh. Uh, Again, and it feels like this big, giant, crazy blob. The new book is definitely a big, exciting thing because and when you're in this space, it is a big win to get a publishing deal. This is my fourth book, but every single one is like a start over from scratch process. And I'm just excited to share the tools that I think have made the biggest impact on my life. So that is probably one of the big highlights of this year. But to be honest, I don't know about you, but 2025 was just a really crazy year in general for definitely for me. I had some of the highest highs of my entire life and some of the lowest lows I've ever experienced. June was just crazy. I mean, my son graduated from college, which was a big deal. My daughter's graduated from high school a week before that, and turned 18. And then the next week was my 50th birthday, and my brother actually died of a heart attack cooking my birthday dinner the day of
Mm,
my birthday party. So it was just like so much and a lot of general heaviness, I think, last year, and just a lot of things kind of for me, almost like a decade of stuff kind of coming to an end. And I really felt this sense of it's time for me to evolve.
yeah,
Like this is kind of just saying goodbye to the old me in so many ways. And so I decided to take 2 months off and essentially backpack through Europe, this
it's
fantasy
amazing.
I had since I was like 18, and did a solo trip through Europe and just was like, I'm open to everything. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to let the universe teach me what I'm supposed to learn right now. And there's definitely some themes that came up every single day and some huge lessons. And it was life changing in so many ways. So
Yeah,
many.
it's Lauren and I were just talking about it, and I recorded a solo episode that'll come out the week after your episode releases, talking about 2025 and kind of the things we went through, and as a world, and me personally, I lost in the last 4 months, I lost two friends to heart attacks.
Oh my God.
I had another friend who was in the hospital for 3 weeks with sepsis. We thought he was going to die, and then another friend who suffered a heart attack at an event that I was at with him.
Oh my God.
And so
Oh,
it's
that's
like
so much.
this
Oh,
crazy stuff, right? And it really does make you kind of slow down and reflect and go, okay, what's different, right? And the episode's about just what you talked about, that idea of like, okay, like yeah, life is finite. You don't know when it's
oh my
going to
God.
end,
Don't.
and then how do you continue to design the life that you want? Because those types of things in your life shift your perspective in so many ways, right?
Mhm.
Like you think that you've designed it perfectly, and you go, oh no, wait, there is more. There's something
Yep.
different I want to be doing. And so, how can you, as somebody who talks about manifestation, dreaming up the next big life, doing the mindset shifts, also take the time to be able to backpack for 2 months and sit back and reflect on the importance of listening versus creating?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think they go hand in hand. I always tell all of my clients that I mean a huge piece of what I do is literally future casting. Like looking at my next 5 or 10 years and being very intentional about creating the type of life and lifestyle that I want. So yeah, that's maybe like 50% of what I'm doing. I'm daydreaming about the future. I'm getting excited about the future, all of that. But then I need the other 50%, which is being present. Like if I don't combine those two, then there's no point in the journey at all. Then you're out there just striving for like these moments or these benchmarks that aren't going to mean anything because you haven't taught yourself how to be in the moment, how to be truly genuinely grateful for every experience, how to be present. And so I'm always teaching that 50-50 balance because all of it it sounds like a cliche, it's the journey, but it really is. I always tell everybody, like, once you've identified something that you want, every tiny little win is living the dream. I used to tell my son who played for the Oregon Ducks, it was his biggest dream, ever. And I was like, living the dream is the practice that just killed you and you want to quit and you literally
Mm.
hate your life right now because
Yeah.
it's like, the worst day ever. That's living the dream. It's not just the big games, it's not just the big stuff. It is all of these little iterations that if I can't be present that day and I can't be like, wow, I got here, I created this, then nothing's going to mean anything to me. So I think I'm a huge traveler. I'm a big, big believer in travel teaches you what you're meant to learn if you go into it with the right mindset. It becomes, I don't know if you've read the book The Alchemist. It's one of my favorites. I've read it like 5 times. So to me, that's what travel is to me. It's almost like following the omens and translating the omens into what they're supposed to teach you. And so everything that kind of physically happens during a day when you're truly traveling, not vacationing, but like traveling, um, is almost like, okay, well, what does that really mean? What is that really teaching me? So for example, I had this crazy story when I was in Marrakesh, Morocco, and I was going out to go on this hot air balloon ride. And
Wow.
something I wanted to do my whole life, and I was super excited to do. And it was just this glorious sunrise was coming up, and all the balloons were in the air, and it literally immediately brought tears to my eyes. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm here! Like this is the moment that I've like always thought about and dreamed of. Like, wow, it was so crazy." And I'm so in the moment, and I'm taking all these pictures and stuff, and all of a sudden I look around and like everyone left. And I was like, these two guys are like, "Hey, get in the back of this SUV," and I was like, "Wait, what?" Like, no, like,
I've
where did
heard the
my tourist
stories.
van, where did my tourist van go? This feels very much like a hostage situation. Like, what is happening right now? And I had this moment of like, my brain is trying to be like, panic, panic, panic. Like, what? Do not get in the back of this SUV with these two guys who do not speak English. And my gut though is really like calm. And I think I went into the trip just going like, universe, teach me. Like, I know there's some things that have been holding me back. I've done all the conscious work I could do. Give me the unconscious lessons to just kind of lock me free. And one of mine is as someone who grew up really poor, I've always really hustled for everything that I've had. I've always had to work really hard. Definitely struggle with kind of my ammo that was just like built into my DNA that I've worked really hard to try and release. And so I had this moment of like my brain is trying to freak out, but my body is actually pretty calm. And so I thought, okay, well, I don't have a choice. I'm not gonna be stuck in the desert by myself. So I guess I get in the back of this car and I trust that everything's gonna work out okay. And not only did it, but they took an hour and a half to figure this out, that they were actually really trying to take care of me and whatever. But so the lesson for me was, man, how many times do I try to fight what's actually trying to help me? There's so many times when you're just fighting for no reason and fighting the thing that was the path of least resistance, the thing that was actually trying to get you what you wanted. And so that trip for me was really about all the work I've done that has led up to that point, right? And being in that conscious enough space to say, now I'm open to just be easy, to stop fighting, to stop struggling
Yeah.
and let what happens happen. So it's a
Yeah.
mix.
It's funny, the last keynote talk I gave, I decided to go a different direction, and I talked about how like I literally was on the stage and I was like, life is really easy. And the people in the audience all like were like, what? Like they didn't
Who is
expect it,
he?
right?
Yeah.
And
What
and
is he
then
saying?
I go, look, it doesn't mean there's not hard moments, but what happens is those hard moments programmed you that when things become easy, you actually self-sabotage and you start to
Hmm.
make it harder, right?
Yep.
And so like if people can understand that, and that's you in that moment, right? Like, okay, these
Yeah.
people are giving me this direction, but I've been told all these things and bad things have happened to me in my life,
Yep.
and so that
Yeah.
means bad things are going to happen. Like, but what's the worst that you could have been stuck in the desert, right? Like, so
Yeah, which would
you
have been a whole
have
lot worse if I tried to continue to fight it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you have to lean into these moments and accept them as they come, and they become these moments become opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And
I,
so like, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say I got the tattoo in Barcelona. It says "float easy."
Oh, I love it. I
There we
love
go,
it.
right there.
Yeah, like
Just float easy. Stop struggling.
we create our own friction. And one way to really start to to calm that is, like you mentioned earlier, is to be in the moment at all times as it's coming. How can you be in the moment these days with constant noise, constant worry, constant blabber, constant cell phone, constant everything? What are some keys people can take away to go, okay, this is how I stay in this moment?
Oh man. So I mean, people talk a lot about gratitude. I think it's very easy to dismiss it and just be like, yeah, 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 I've heard it a million times. I can list off, I'm happy for my house, I'm happy with my family, But if you can turn that voice off and just take a moment, you know, I do a yoga class probably 4 or 5 times a week, and that's one of the places kind of start to my day. And I will just sit there and I'll be like, I am genuinely grateful for my body. I've, worked on my health journey. I feel much better than I have in the past. I'm really kind of trying to tap into why I am grateful for something. I'm grateful because the work that I've done paid off and I'm healthy. My brother, we everyone thought he was healthy. He had no indicators whatsoever.
Mm,
He had no idea. None of us had, whatever. So I think like if you can be conscious throughout the day of understanding what helps you regulate and what deregulates you. So for me, if I see news in my feed, it's a quick it sends me on all the spirals, right? I'm like, I cannot see that anymore, I can't have that in my space. And so knowing that, I also have to know what brings in keeping my mind on track, keeping me in the moment. Another thing that I do, really often is I record my wins. I think people really forget to record their wins, or they're only counting the really big ones.
mm,
And it's all the little things that keep you on the track to get the big ones. And if you're not grateful for the little ones, if you're not grateful for the phone call that you finally got returned, or, the email that someone finally responded to you, and you're like, oh my God, we're starting, momentum is starting to shift. If you're not bringing that energy to each of those things, then I truly believe it starts shutting down the pipeline for you. And so the only way to really kind of catch those and to be grateful is to be present, is to understand what they mean and like feel this moment right now. And so I think the last probably 10 years for sure, I've been much more conscious of it. And the last probably 7 years, I've done a lot of traveling, and traveling again is one of those ways that just really helps you because every day is new, every day is
mm.
different. All of your senses are kind of being accosted with brand new things the whole time. And so it forces you to be in the moment. And then the last thing I'll say is one of the things I always teach my clients to do is you should have at least three things that you enjoy. So for me, it might be cooking or gardening or something that you physically have to do with your hands. So whenever you're doing anything with your hands, it's almost like active meditation. You are forcing yourself to, I don't want to cut my fingers off when I'm cutting the onion, right? I'm like actually watching myself cut an onion. And so by doing that, you're allowing some de-stressing to happen, which is super important. And most of us are not giving ourselves that space and practicing. This is what it's like to actually be here, to feel this, and do whatever helps you do that. I turn on music, I get in the moment, and I'm like, this is my hour while I'm cooking to like just get the most of it.
Yeah. And so obviously, this is now your fourth book that you've written. And you've always been in the self-development space, but I feel like Think It is probably the furthest you've gone into it,
Yeah,
beyond the vision
for
boards,
sure.
right? Beyond all
Yep.
these things. And I'm excited for it because, again, you're the expert on breaking it down into how do I actually do this?
Oh
Everybody
boy.
says go do this, but they
Yes.
don't tell me the how behind it. What was the reason behind writing Think It? And talk a little bit about the how behind getting into the right mindset.
Oh, it's 100% because of the how. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I do any of the things that I do, because you're exactly right. Everyone is talking in sound bites about it. Even really strong, good leaders. I'll listen to the stuff and I'm keep waiting, waiting. Okay, tell me exactly what to do when this thought comes up. What do I do? And it's still theory for the most part. And so you have to be really advanced to know how to turn theory into like dealing with my issue that I'm dealing with today. And so for me, I've always been very fascinated by like, how do I break this down to make it so simple that a child, literally a child, can do this, and take these very like big concepts like neuroscience and things like that, and break it down into this is what I do when I personally start to spiral, or when my fear kicks in, or when I'm feeling lack, or I'm feeling not confident in a boardroom meeting or something. So what do I do in that moment? What do I do in the 5 minutes before that? What do I do after that? And and very like tangible things. And so every one of my books always has homework. I call it personal work. And I know a lot of people feel one way or the other about it, but I'll just be really frank. If you're just absorbing information, it's probably not doing a lot for you. I mean, it might be going in maybe 1 to 5 to 10% into a subconscious dump that maybe you're applying a little bit here and there. That isn't how you get transformational change. You have to freaking sit down and say, how do I translate this thing that I just learned into my issues, into my life, into what I'm supposed to be doing tomorrow, actually? And so that is what the book is all about. And the homework, I make all my clients do it too. It's how I translate that over. And so if you're going through and you have fear and anxiety triggers, let's say, and they're ones probably you've had for years. That's typically how it is. It always starts with a thought. So whether you're at the stage where you've been in therapy or you've had medication or you've seen experts, it doesn't matter because it all starts with a thought.
Mm.
So if I know how to change that thought at the very core of everything, then all of a sudden I can get myself to the place where I never have that thought again. Not only did I never have that thought again, but I actually believe the opposite of that thought. To me, that's just mind blowing.
Yeah.
That I have the power to do that in my own head. I have the power to literally rewrite a system, just like it was running an old iOS system and I did an update and here we go. Now it's running the new one. And it doesn't revert back, right? Your iPhone doesn't revert back to 7.0 when you've done the 20.5 update, right? So that's pretty powerful. But again, most people aren't like showing you how to do it in practical terms and kind of everyday stuff. So I teach 7 tools in this book. They're tools I've been coaching for years and over a decade, that are very, very practical. I have one called mental tennis that is just like, it's so simple, it's almost silly, but it works so freaking well. It's crazy.
Yeah. So what is mental tennis?
Yeah, so mental tennis, I kind of have to set up. I'm a visual person. This is what will make it stick for you too. So just imagine you're like out on a tennis court and you're practicing your serve, right? So you have like an automatic ball launcher and you're the balls are like coming at you, right? No one is going to typically just stand in front of the ball launcher and get pelted head to toe. But if you imagine that your brain is the tennis court and all day long your thoughts are coming at you, they say on average we have between 60 and 80,000 thoughts a day. That's a lot of balls coming at you all day long. And almost everyone out on the planet is absorbing them. They're standing there and allowing them to hit, right? And then they're engaging with them, which is even worse, right? Because then we're growing whatever those negative thoughts are. We're giving it energy. And then without even knowing it, we're actually manifesting it for our future. So it's a pretty crazy kind of concept. But then you think, like, well, if I was out on the tennis court, what would I do? I'd be running around, I'd be trying to hit the ball back over the net. I'd be trying to return the serve. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not going to get them all, but I would at least try. I wouldn't just stand there and take it. And so with mental tennis, all we're trying to do is return the serve. So if the thought comes to me, I'm not good enough, let's say, I immediately hear that thought and I'm like, I'm good enough. So I'm just returning the opposite. That's it. Every single time I'm asking my brain, what's the opposite of that exact sentence? And I'm telling myself that new sentence. And the reason why it works so well is because it does 2 things. The first is it starts to decrease the amount of that thought coming back, because it stops getting engaged. It
Mm.
stops creating a physical trigger. It stops making us upset. Stops like having an impact on our mood and our body and all of that, right? Because we're not giving it any, we're like, nope, not happening. But then the coolest part is for the first time ever, now I've given my brain a brand new outcome. I am good enough. So this is a new thing. My brain hasn't been getting this information. So now all of a sudden, if I'm saying every single day I'm good enough, I'm learning every day, I'm proud of myself, I'm showing up constantly, I'm getting better every single day. Now all of a sudden, a brand new pathway of opportunities, of motivation, of everything you can possibly name has just been created for me that would have never existed otherwise.
Yeah,
So simple, works
it's
every time.
it's absolutely genius because I think about your story and I think about my story and how we came from broke, we came from many
Nothing.
failures, we came from falling on our face, and we've been able to create this beautiful lives for ourselves to go, wow, like I'm actually doing these things I've always dreamt of. But as we still continue to level up and we find ourselves in rooms with people we've looked up to and sharing the stage with
Yeah.
them and doing these things, those thoughts still come up. Like I don't
Yep.
want it to be like, oh, it just vanishes, right? But if
Yeah.
you can have the tools in order to hit it back, right?
Yep.
That's what gets you there. That's what gets you there. And I remember a moment, actually, you're about to talk to Amberly Lago, but when I spoke at her event back in 2023, I think it was.
Yeah.
The I was like, my thought was like, I don't belong here. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what? Wow, unbelievable, right? And then immediately I was like, no, she asked me to be here. Like this,
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
belong here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And these are like these little tools that people can use as it happens because these are thoughts that constantly continue to come back into your head. And I love that visualization of being on a tennis court and being like, how can I serve this back? Because the reality is, we all are still that 12-year-old kid,
Mhm.
who went through the shit, who,
Yeah.
whatever. And so you have to be able to kind of continue to battle that. What other things in Think It can people really, because I think that's a huge takeaway for me. What are some other things that are, or tools that people can use to kind of push themselves forward and continue to build their life?
Yeah, so I have this concept called offense and defense. So you may have picked up on my theme. I like sports. But they're really good
Thank
analogies.
God you do, because you went to every college
Right.
game your son played in.
Exactly. They're an analogy that pretty much everybody on some level understands, right? So, if I want to continue to keep moving forward and creating anything that I want, I have to be on offense. In other words, I have to, just like out on a soccer field or a basketball court when offense and defense is always at play, both of those things have to work on a team in order for the team to win, right? The one that has both, the best of both wins. So you can't just play defense and hope to win. You have to offensively score, just like we have to offensively put out into the universe what we want. So we can't just be like, when those negative thoughts come in and start triggering us, we can't just be like, I'm okay. That doesn't actually work. It just sends me down the spiral even further. So I always, always, always have to say, what do I want instead? What do I want instead? So that again, creating a brand new pathway. But I can't just wait for that to happen either. So I can't just be like, well, I'll wait till I get triggered by lack or triggered by self-doubt or whatever. I want to actually proactively every single day tell myself what's about to happen, tell myself who I'm about to be. And I do that in a way that claims it as my outcome right now. So every day I will tell myself, I am smart, I am capable, I am loved, I am growing, I'm creating, great things are happening to me, opportunities are coming faster than I can even manage them. So I'm constantly putting out the story that I want my future to hold in its reality on my own. So that does two things. One, it starts to create it, which it probably wouldn't have ever happened to me had I just sat around and waited for it. But then two, it actually starts to stop those negative triggers, period. They get less and less and less. So you actually can get to a place where you completely believe an opposite thing. In other words, you can completely let go of that old version of yourself. It just doesn't resonate with you anymore. It's not valid anymore. You've proven it to be completely untrue. And you can shed it like a skin. You're like, you can't talk me out of this anymore. Like that was the old me. That's not who I am anymore, right? But like you mentioned, there can still be versions of these thoughts that come up. They can be pretty tricky and they can come up in a new way, right? And they'll be like, "Ooh, I got you now because I I'm coming at this from a new angle and it's going to feel new." But as soon as you're learning how to be present and hear what's going on in your head, you get better and better at it. It's your mind is a muscle just like every other muscle in your body. So if I'm practicing awareness, practicing listening to what's going on in my head, then I can always be like, hey, do I want that? Nope. All right, I want this instead. So you're just playing like a bait and switch game a little bit.
Mm.
Uh, and whenever I have clients that very first start practicing this mental fitness, I always warn them. I'm like, the first 2 weeks is like a battlefield. Like it is you're gonna feel like you're at war with yourself because like, holy crap, I had no idea all this was going on in my head. And once you have it and you're trying to change it, it's like, wow. But on week three, you're like, God, I feel so much better. By week four, you're like, I'm on a totally different plane than I was before. So it really does create this new version of you that is so empowering and feels so good because you're like, no one gave this to me. I gave this to myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Pretty
love
cool.
that. So, what do you do when you get bored? And let me frame that in a certain way. Somebody had asked me this recently at a retreat that I was at, and he's like, "Well, what do you do when you get bored?" Because I've built this life where I'm good. Like I'm good.
Mhm.
Like I don't really have to worry. Like life is great. And then I had a guest on the show a couple months ago, and he talked about like avoiding the drift, right?
Yeah.
So like drifting and just coasting along wherever
Yep.
you're going. And when he framed the question to me, like, what do you do when you get bored? I realized, oh, wait, I am bored. Right.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just kind of moving
Yep.
through the process. But you're somebody I see every year you create this vision board. The wall behind you is literally the
Mm.
visions that you've created that have become a reality, like all these things. And
Yeah.
every year you do it. How do you continue to go, okay, well, what's next for me? Like, because you've built a great life for yourself and a
Mhm.
lot of people can be stagnant.
Yeah.
So like how do you continue to dream up that next big thing?
It's a really good question. And this really is how. So at the end of every year I do, which I'm doing now, I do kind of an audit on the past year. I get really honest with myself and say, what am I really proud of? What did I follow through on? What did I manifest? What, like based on the vision that I've had in the past, where this year line up? And what are all the things I want to leave in this year and just leave here and never come back to, right? So then that helps me go into the new year with clear intentions. And then I have a couple homework assignments or personal work assignments. I can send you a link to one of the core base ones that's free. People can go do, and it's the perfect one to do at the beginning of the year. And it's called a life plan story, and that's kind of where I start fresh as I can in my mind with this clean of slate as to where I am today. And it will walk you through all of these prompts that help you from today look out into the future and say, hey, what is the best case scenario in all of these categories of my life, in my career, in where I live, in who's in my life, in how I feel about myself, in the things that I want to do. And I always tell my clients, really try to come from this place because a lot of times we come from historical data. So you, again, have to be present enough to ask yourself the tough questions: where I sit today, what do I want? And it's helping you answer all of those questions. What do I want? And if I can write down the biggest and best case scenario of each of those, then I'm always moving forward. And if I do that every single year, I'm always moving forward. So my goal throughout my life is I never want to reach an endpoint, right? I always want it to be moving forward. And that helps me also make sure that those dreams are still relevant because sometimes they're not. Sometimes I'm like, hey, maybe I've carried this dream over for a couple years. And guess what? It doesn't resonate with me at all. I'm in a totally different place than I was 3 years ago, and I want something very different. And that's totally fine too. And I think like just making this a practice is so important because otherwise we're kind of just going blind or we're going off literally historical data in the back of our head that was from 10 years ago that might not have
Yeah.
not absolutely nothing to do with who we are right now or actually what we even want in our future. So just being able to be really truthful with yourself, ask yourself these kind of tough questions, helps you create a life that is in alignment, that does feel good and exciting and you want to go after it. And it also helps you identify what those next kind of goals and visions and things are for your future. So you are always moving forward.
Yeah, we mentioned gratitude earlier, which it is a great tool when used properly.
Mhm.
But what I realize is everybody's really good at being grateful when things are going really well,
Right.
right? So it's easy to find gratitude when things are going well, but the importance is finding gratitude as things are falling apart. So
Mhm.
how do you shift into gratitude going through the terrible things that you went through this last year? How can you shift into gratitude even in those terrible moments?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, really. And when I teach gratitude, I actually have everyone go through this uh, kind of exercise, and we only do it one time. And because I feel like most of us have a very hard time accessing the genuine feeling of gratitude, because like I said, it's usually like, "Meh, meh, meh," so I make them visualize their life without everything. So if you woke up tomorrow and you had no place to go because you didn't have a home anymore, and you didn't have a car to go get into, drive to the store, and everyone that you would normally call isn't there,
Hmm.
it feels pretty dark and it's definitely not something you want to like give a lot of space to over and over. But I think we all need that reality check every now and then. We all need to be like, yo, there's a lot in my life that I take completely for granted. And then there's something about going, wow, I really want to call all those people I just imagined my life without. Wow, I really want to like light a candle and bring some flowers into my home because I'm so glad my home is here and I can do that, right? So sometimes we have to go to that place that we can understand, even in that darkness, I can be grateful. And I will say that many years ago, God, 2011 maybe, or 10 maybe now, when my house flooded, and my kids were very small at the time, my house flooded and the Red Cross came and they said, "Hey, we'll put you up in like a roadside motel." I'll be honest, it was a shitty little motel. um, and here's a $300 debit card so you can buy some food because literally we had nothing. Like overnight, the house just completely flooded in 10 minutes. Everything had to move out. And I remember being in that hotel. We were there for actually 3 weeks. And that was the most grateful I've probably ever been in my whole life
Wow.
because I was like, I am so grateful that I have this. I'm so grateful that someone stepped up and was there for me. Like now I understand what gratitude really means. So I think if even when you're going through it, and this year, like you said, I really went through it. I think knowing that there is always a bigger plan out there that is somehow in my best interest. And when these horrible things happen, you don't understand it. But having historically gone through a process like this multiple times and knowing that the universe always has something good for me on the other end of that helps me to look for the things that I can be grateful for because I know that that is the only way to change negative momentum. It really is. It's the only way. So if you feel like you're going through the shit, the only way to get you out of it is to genuinely wake up and focus on the things that are going right and focus on the things that you are thankful for. The more you are, the more you get to be thankful for. And it's a simple, simple formula. Hard to put into practice a lot of times, but if you can be mentally strong enough to do that, you'll see your momentum shift really quickly.
Yeah, I have this internal dialogue in my head sometimes about like, do you need to go through all these horrible things in order to build the thick skin, in order to build the success, in order to enjoy the process? Or can you do that if you were born with a silver spoon, trust fund baby, whatever words we use to discuss those
Yeah.
individuals? Like, what's your thought on that? Do you feel like we need these terrible moments in order to be able to use these skills?
100%. I was actually just thinking about this last night. There's a section in the book where I talk about how to teach some of these tools to your kids as a parent. And one of the things I hear all the time from parents is they have a really hard time supporting their child's big dream. So, for instance, my son wanted to play football. Most parents honestly would not support that because I mean, they would think that they did, but all their actions would not because again, it's like a 1% chance. You wound up playing for the number one team in the country,
Yeah, it's
like
crazy.
literally a 1% chance. So parents will usually go and be like, well, I don't want my kid to be disappointed. So I want to shield them from disappointment. I don't want them to get their hopes up, just all of this stuff. We're all really conditioned with this thought process. And I think, oh my God, what a horrible disservice you're doing to that child. Like horrible. If they get disappointed, who fucking cares? Guess what? They're gonna be disappointed. And if they're not, then they will never have the skill set to know how to overcome adversity, to know how to actually want something and go after it regardless of what happens. Those are literally life skills they have to survive as a human. And if you are denying them of that, you're doing them a humongous disservice because then they're not learning any of that until they get maybe into their 20s. And by then they're freaking lost and they don't have the tools to handle it. So without a doubt, I mean, I think I've been through a lot of hard things in my life, but I've been through many phases of ease and beauty. And I like those better. I'm not gonna lie, everyone
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
But in every season that has tested me, it has led to ultimate success on the other side, or the success that I was maybe seeking, and also clarity and the version of me that I'm most proud of. And so I think no one ever wants to go through it, but it's how you get through it and how you train your mindset, even through that makes you that top 1%, top 5% of humans, because most people don't know how to do that and really, really struggle. But if you have some tools to navigate that and get through on the other side, then you really get to a place where you feel like, man, I can handle anything. Like,
Mm,
you don't need to throw it at me just to prove it, but trust and believe whatever comes, I got it. And
yeah.
that's a great feeling, you know. You don't feel like the road can be completely pulled out from under you at all times, which is, you know, it's
Yeah,
empowering.
I feel like so I'm a step parent now, which, when we first met, I was a
Yeah.
bachelor thinking I was gonna
Right,
be a
right.
bachelor for the rest of my life. But it's funny, like I'm the opposite when it comes to that type of stuff. For a couple years, I really got my stepdaughter into professional wrestling, so we'd watch WWE
Yeah,
together. And I was like, Luce, you should become a WWE superstar. I think
I
you have the
love it.
personality to do it. I think so. For a while, that was her thing,
Yeah,
right? We don't watch.
yeah,
She grew out of it,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
uh, but it was one of those things where she was like, "Yeah," she's like, "I could do this." Blah blah blah.
yeah, yeah,
I was like, you could fly off the ropes like that. I could see that,
yep.
right? And so it's
Yeah, I
this
love
idea of
that
like,
though. Like that's
yeah,
exactly how I started. Just like implanting, because you never know where that same like core implanting I could do something. Maybe it was WWE in that moment, but you know, maybe when she's, I don't know how old she is now, but 15 or something, it's something else. And it's something she really needs to believe in herself to do. So that same concept is going to still help her give the skills to not dismiss ideas or, you know, like put them off to the side and be like, oh, I can't do that. Now she can be like, oh, well, maybe I can do that, you know? And if my
yeah,
parents thought I could do this crazy thing, then they'll probably think I can do this, you know? And our kids need us to believe in them. There's plenty of people out there who's going to tell them all the rest of the stuff. And
yeah,
if we're not the ones that are going to believe in them, just imagine how much self-doubt that's creating in their personality. Like,
100%.
why would I want to do that to my kid? That's
A
their
hundred
weird.
percent. Yeah. It's you're 100%, true when you talk about that stuff. So I have a dear friend named Karen Anderson. She's a ghostwriter. She's written some of the biggest books in the world that people don't know about. I know
Yeah.
them. And she's a author coach and all these things. And she goes, when you're writing a book, before you write it, you should ask yourself these two questions. One, what do you want them to feel?
Mm,
And two, what do you want them to do? Right.
mm.
So I
Actually,
want
yeah.
to kind of give you that question with your new book, Think It. What did,
Yeah.
when you set out to write it, what did you want them to feel? And now what do you want them to do?
Ooh, I wanted them to feel like anything was possible. Like for the first time to really, because a lot of the examples that I give are the stuff that we're all dealing with every single day. And it's stuff that we feel like we have no control over. And for someone to pick up this book who hopefully gets in the hands of people who've never heard any of this stuff, who aren't into self-development, and to learn like, oh my gosh, I could do this simple thing called mental tennis and figure out what the opposite is, and could that change anything? Oh my God. And then how I want them to ultimately well, number one, I want them to do the work. They want to do the homework and they've got to do the practice. Otherwise, it's a useless book, right? But I want them to feel empowered. And to me, the definition of empowerment is I'm given a situation and now I know what to do.
Mm, I love it. So I want
Any
you to fast
situation that
forward.
comes, now I know what to do.
I want you to fast forward to the end of your life. Hopefully, it's 500 years from now, right?
Mhm.
And you're surrounded by all your loved ones, but every piece of content you created has been wiped off the face of the planet. At that point, the 50 books you've written, all
Yeah.
the things, right? And you can only be remembered for one sentence. What would you want that sentence to be?
Oh God, you ask a writer for one sentence. Oh Lord have mercy. Anything is possible.
I love it, and you live that, which when I get the answer from the person when I ask that question and they're actually doing it, like I love that.
That
And
is
it doesn't. By the
literally
way, it
like the
doesn't always happen.
definition of my life. I would say that sums up not only my work, but my life. You're right. Yeah.
I love it. And so
Anything is
I want to
possible.
ask you a question. I ask everybody. I'm sure I've asked you
Yeah.
before. So we'll see if we have a different answer now. So it's a two-part question. The first part is, what is your definition of success? And the second part is, what are three things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
My definition of success is that I am in alignment with where I'm going, what I want, and I'm enjoying that process. So there's gonna, like I said, it's always gonna be a moving target. I never plan to like just arrive and be done. So there's gonna be all these wins along the way that if I'm in alignment, I'm present and I'm enjoying those. And that to me is success because the opposite doesn't feel good and I don't want to be there. And then to make sure that that happens, I practice what I teach every single day. So I am doing my IMs. I'm literally looking at my IM board. I have color sticky notes that cover an entire wall that are all my IM statements. So I look at those every day and I tell myself every day. And when I've moved on from one that I no longer need, I replace it with a new one, you know? So like doing that every single day, writing down my life plan, setting my goals, doing the work that I have my clients do, like that's what makes sure that I am moving forward in the direction that I want to go. And I do that regardless of if I feel like everything's falling apart or everything is going my way, you know, and you have to be willing to be consistent and do the work that you know has got you where you're at today if you want to continue to grow, you know?
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. So I obviously wrap with the same question every single time, but before we get there, let's get to the important stuff. How can people get to the new book? Obviously, we want to get it before the launch date. And then also, where can they find you online?
Oh, Sarah Centrella on Instagram or every platform. And then the book you can get anywhere books are sold. Obviously, Amazon pre-orders matter the most. Thank you for plugging that. They are the most important thing there is to a book launch. I know it's not as fun to order it a month before it's out, but it really matters. And it means that more people will see the book and all the good things will happen. So thank you.
I love ordering a book before it launches, and I'll tell you why. Because I forget I ordered it, and
That's
then it
what
just
someone
arrives,
else
and it's like
said.
it's like a surprise. We don't have any more surprises in life anymore, so
Right.
it's
Someone
like a
else told
nice
me
little
that too.
surprise.
Yeah, but that's a
It's
good way to look at it.
it's so good. So as you know, I wrap up every single interview with the same question, and that is: in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Ooh, so many. I'll go with the most recent. I think on the trip, it was daily growth, and to come away with two of the biggest lessons that I've kind of been searching for a long time, um, was huge for me. I think it's going to catapult my whole next decade, my whole next level of everything that I've worked this long to build. And that is float easy, baby.
I love it, Sarah. You're the best. Thank you so much for
Oh,
coming
you
back
are.
on the show. And guys, go get the book. But thank you again for coming on the show.
Ah, love you to pieces. Thank you for having me.